I'm Chimwemwe Mangazi with Business Time on Times. It is a magazine program where we bring you business and economic news stories making headlines. In the program today, Kasiya Rutile and Graphite project to begin in 2029. Also in the program, Treasury hopeful on sustaining the IMF Extended Credit Facility program. We have these and other stories. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome. Representatives of Sovereign Metals Limited say production at the Kasiya Rutile and Graphite project is expected to begin in 2029. The project, located in Lilongwe, is expected to generate $645 million annually from mineral exports over 25 years. This came out when officials from the company met the Trade Committee of Parliament. Our reporter Taonga Sabola caught up with Sovereign Metals Social Manager Garth Laberman.
To take a few steps back, the mineral deposit was discovered while the company was searching for graphite in 2019. Since then, we've done a lot of exploration work and gone through a pre-feasibility study. Last year, we focused our attention on doing a bulk sample trial, which gave us a lot of very useful information about the mineral deposit, about what's going to be involved in eventually mining that mineral deposit, as well as some really important real empirical information about what is going to be required to rehabilitate after mining. So our focus last year was very much on what we call the optimized pre-feasibility study, which to a large extent was informed by the trial bulk sample that we undertook. We've termed it the rehabilitation trial. From 2024 moving into 2025, we are now moving to what is called the definitive feasibility study. And this is probably the most detailed level of study that needs to be undertaken. Additional confirmatory exploration is being finalized to define the mineral resource at a level that we can go out to the market and seek investors. And obviously we are optimistic and hope to succeed in that regard. What it also does is it provides basically a level of definition of what's going to be involved, a high level of definition in terms of what's going to be involved when it comes to mining this very large and important resource. So over the next 9 months, up until the end of October, we will have teams of consultants and specialists working very hard to definitively define the feasibility of the project. And after that point, once we are informed, fully informed, we will move into the stage of seeking and applying for a mining license. Obviously, a very important part of which is to sign a mineral development agreement with the government. We will be seeking the approval of the environmental and social impact assessment, and those two key components are really what potential investors will be looking for. Once that is complete, we will then go out with the required approvals in place, with the definitive feasibility study having been completed, and look for the investment required to actually build the project. And building a project of this scale is not a quick or easy undertaking. It's typically the construction phase of the processing infrastructure and additional infrastructure required to obviously enable the project to be mined typically takes between 2 or 3 years. It's a lot of work, even when it's expedited. It's a huge undertaking. And then obviously, if all goes according to plan, and if that construction process can be undertaken, then we look to be to be moving this project into an operational phase in the next, say, 5 to 6 years, if all goes according to plan. But obviously there are factors beyond our control. What was very clear in meeting the parliamentary committee and from all of our interactions that we have on an ongoing basis with government is that the government of Malawi are hugely supportive. They want this project expedited. They see it as an opportunity for a significant amount of development of the Malawian economy with a substantial amount of benefits for the Malawian people. And we as Sovereign Services Limited, our legacy is important to us. We're a company that cares about the impact that we're going to have on communities, the impact that we're going to have on the environment, as well as the legacy we're going to leave in Malawi, after mining this very valuable resource. This is a really fantastic opportunity for Malawi to lift itself up. There are secondary opportunities as have been discussed in detail. If Malawi can position itself to encourage value addition, to encourage the development of supply industries for the mining sector, this is what helps countries get to a point where when their mineral resources are gone, there's something left, and the country can continue to grow and prosper. I think we're aligned in terms of our vision. Our legacy is very important to us, as I've said, and we would like to see a situation when this resource has been fully mined in 25 to 30 years, that Malawi is better as a result.
And Trade Committee of Parliament Chairperson Paul Nkoma had this to say.
What they said was the basis of the estimation of time of 5 to 6 years is because in the process of applying for various activities, there is a role that government plays, some approvals which they get from government. So they were saying that they are building in their planning that sometimes government departments can delay in giving them approvals. But they are saying if they got everything on time, because from their side, the definitive feasibility study will be completed in October. And most of the issues that we will look for approvals from government from, they will be in this definitive feasibility study report. So what they are also saying is that they can shorten the period from 5. So they're saying 2 to 5 years, 2 to 5 years. So if the government permits are given to them on time, they're able to start operations much earlier, even within 2026. So what we have asked for is for when they're done with the feasibility study, they should share with us the report from which we will extract the timelines at which time they will require something from any government department, and then we will oversight those government departments. They were actually also very happy that there is a mining technical working group which they are working with so far, and that technical working group has been very helpful in trying to get any approvals from the different government departments. So it is our hope as Parliament that technical working group will continue to work as efficiently as it is working. But in case there is any delays, we will be on top of it. So as a committee, we have agreed that after the study is out, we will get the results of that study and follow the timelines and try to work with each of the institutions that are responsible for any permits to give them the permits on time.
A major boost for Malawi's energy sector as government secures a $250 million grant from the World Bank. The funding aims to triple electricity access across the country within the next 6 years. Finance Minister Simplex Chitolabanda signed the $250.8 million agreement at the Mission 300 Africa Summit in Tanzania. Our journalist Benedetta Chiwandamia caught up with the minister in Dar es Salaam.
Julius Nyerere International Convention Center in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, where the Mission 300 Africa Summit is taking place for 2 days. 13 heads of state, ministers from different African countries and various delegations, both international, outside Africa and in Africa, will be here discussing, coming together. The main purpose is to accelerate access to electricity, energy access in Africa. I am Benedetta Chiwandamia. With me here is the Minister of Energy, Honorable Ibrahim Matola. Now, just briefly before you go in, we just want to hear from you. What is Malawi getting out of here, and how important is it that we are part of this summit today?
First and foremost, let me thank the two banks and the other development partners, World Bank, African Development Bank, Rockefeller, JAP, that they came up together as partners in development, not as competitors. There is a say in Chichewa, Mutu Moti Susenza Denga. In Africa, 600 million people have no access to electricity. Then the World Bank and World Bank and African Development Bank sat down and see how they can move forward, eradicating the poverty in access to electricity. That's why the compact has been made that from 2025 to 2030, they would want to reduce the 300 million people in Africa to have access of electricity. And this can be achieved. One, they have been selected 15 countries who are going to participate in this compact. And Malawi, because of the past ascent program, it has done well, because when His Excellency Dr. Rosas Makata Jaguera was taking over the administration of the country, the access of electricity in Malawi was at 9%, between 9 and 10%. So from that one, we have gone further, that now we are at 26.9%, which means that we have gone further from the accent one. So this one, the target is to reach from 25, we can reach up to 70% by 2030. As you know, it is not easy to be recognized by these two institutions, the World Bank and the African Development Bank, that Malawi should be part of the reducing poverty in access to electricity in the continent. So the population of Malawi is 20 million or 21 million. There are other countries in the continent which the population is more than 60 and more than 100 something, but Malawi has been chosen to be part of the reduction of access to electricity, poverty in electricity within the continent. And it is a good development, and I would like also to thank His Excellency for being keen.
The conference, as earlier indicated, whereby in the first day for today, there will be ministerial presentation. It's a ministerial event where different nations, including Malawi, will be presenting their national energy compact. And tomorrow, the heads of state will, among other things, also sign the Dar es Salaam declaration, whereby they will be committing their energy compacts and also ensuring that they are within the deadlines and the commitments of their energy compacts that will feed into the Africa Energy Compact to ensure that there's bridging of the gap of energy poverty in Africa. From Dar es Salaam, I am Benedetta Chiwandamia.
The government has reiterated some targets agreed with the International Monetary Fund are unrealistic. The Finance Ministry is now seeking adjustments to the country's reform program, the Extended Credit Facility. I recently caught up with Secretary to Treasury Bechani Chereni, who begins by answering the question, when will the economy heal?
Now, the healing of the economy is not a simple matter. Let me say it's like building a house versus demolishing a house. It takes one cyclone to wipe out all your maize, to wipe out all your production capacity, your buildings, your roads, your bridges. It takes just one cyclone in under an hour. Everything is gone. But for you to build that house which has just been demolished, you took probably 5 years or 10 years to build that house. You needed to plan for fertilizer, for labor, for you to do your garden, and things just got washed away. So for you to rebuild that, it takes time. So in economics, we discuss what we call lagged variables or lagged values. So what happens today, the effect may not be seen right now, or the impact, especially when you are planning to intervene into the economy. So you intervene at some point. When you intervene, you don't expect the results to be instant. That is very rare in economic planning. So you intervene here and then you watch what happens, the trajectory. As you're watching, you say, okay, fine, looks like things can begin to work. For example, right now we have realized that, okay, what really is going to work for food security in Malawi is when we begin to make available farm inputs via the National Economic Empowerment Fund. So via the National Economic Empowerment Fund, we are able to go to people who have some farms. Maybe you've got 5 hectares, 10 hectares, 20 hectares of farmland that you would like to see that it's happening. So we've been able to go to NIF, funded them with about 150 billion kwacha, and they have been able to procure the fertilizer. They're not dishing out money, they're dishing out the actual fertilizer. You want fertilizer? Here it is. You shall give us this money back by this time. So we believe that that's where food security is going to be dealt with. Why am I talking about food security? It's because maize has got a larger a proportion or ratio in the CPI index, right? So in that index, you've got maize having a much larger share, which means that if you're able to find that there's a lot of maize on the market and the price of maize goes down, that means that inflation in general will go down. When inflation is going down, you know what happens? Interest rates also go down. And the same happens also to exchange rates, because you've got too much maize, a lot of it you just have to export. The Mega Farms unit has registered to the north of 900 farmers. In last year, they registered less than 100 farmers. So last year they were expecting about 30,000 metric tons of maize. This year they're expecting to the north of 300,000 metric tons of maize. So that's progress. That's progress. So that's what we want to see happen. And then in the next winter cropping, we are also going to finance via NIF again, so that we can see that farmers, for example, are able to do winter cropping, and then we can get an extra, maybe 600, 700,000 metric tons of maize. So that, to add on to what we are projecting, that if only we can get this year, say 4 million tons of maize, it means that there won't be an issue to do with the maize supply. So the price of maize should go down. Inflation, therefore, will also go down. And therefore, we should see most of the macros beginning to behave. So that takes time. And it's not only that, it's a number of interventions that you take that will take longer before you begin to see. For example, when you bring in MTCHL, it's not like people are going to be employed today. So then MTCHL has to work with the other investors to bring in various machineries for fruit canning, machineries for, making of cornflakes and other things. When they do that, then for you to procure the machines, they come in, you get them to be installed, and having installed, then you start the production. That's even 6 months, sometimes even a year. And then when they begin to manufacture, it means now that the actual import substitution is starting to take place. Then the impact can begin to be felt. And all these things, they don't happen in an instant. It's not like instant porridge.
Let's conclude our discussion by looking at the ECF.
Yes. Where are we with the ACM? It's a very good program, I must say. For at the onset, it's a very, very good program. Where we are is now discussing realism between us and the IMF mission team. So we are discussing realism. We have been saying some of the assumptions that were brought in, they don't seem really to speak to the realities on the ground in Malawi. Some of the agreements that were made, for example, they may not necessarily be speaking to realism. And we have been liaising with our colleagues at the IMF. I've made a trip, for example, to the IMF. Myself and the owner of minister and the governor of the Reserve Bank. We have sat there, we've been able to discuss, and they are likely to be in Malawi in February, where we're going to have some discussions to see to it that the realism perhaps is somewhere here, where we were may not have been a reality. We are doing this because, in my view, I don't want fiscal waterboarding. What do I mean by that? I don't want us to forget that we are here to transform the country. We shouldn't just be responding to a program without thinking about transformation of the country. We need to transform the country. And transformation of the country may not happen if you are running what we want to call a contractionary economic policy. You need to balance. Some contraction should be happening, but in my view, supply-side economics is most important if you're going to begin to see transformation. And I'm happy that the IMF team is understanding that. We have been saying that you can contract money supply in as much as you want, but if there's no maize produced, inflation is not going to go down. It will still continue to go up. So you have seen, for example, that the Reserve Bank has had a lot of contractionary monetary policy interventions happening, but inflation is still going up. And the question that we've been asking is, the reality on the ground says what? So the reality on the ground says it's about maize. Deal with food. When you deal with the food, you are dealing with inflation. Is cancellation of the program an option? I'm asking this because it automatically cancels within 18 months. It does. That's what it says. It does, but we are still keen on it, and we are still working every day. For example, yesterday I had meetings up to somewhere around 9 p.m. trying to look at our numbers, how are they coming up, and then providing explainers to those numbers, and then submitting to the IMF team. That means that we are still on, and we still want to see it achievable.
With that item, we've come to the end of today's edition of Business Time. It is a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. On behalf of the entire production team, I am Chimwemwe Mangazi. But always remember, if it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense. Bye for now.